people don't know what I look like until now. Until they start going to the movies. They're gonna see my face. Big deal.
Yo, what's good? OmgHawk, OneManGang, back at y'all with another one.
Plow, plow, plow.
All right, man, thank you.
You know, I hope everyone is well as always. Summer's almost over, people. I hope everyone's had fun and stayed cool, whether you had the AC pumping or you live in that box fan / multiple shower life. I hope you staying hydrated and in good spirits either way. If you're new to the channel, I appreciate you stopping by. If you end up liking the video, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and I'll keep them coming. And to the returning viewers, especially the subs and everyone showing love in the comments, I can't thank you enough. I know it's been a minute since my last upload. I won't disrespect y'all with excuses. My bad, y'all. I appreciate you 2 times, 4 times, and you already know. The details in today's case are disturbing, and viewer discretion is advised. Let's get right to it.
It's all about the fucking Northeast. It's all about Connecticut, New England.
Today's case will be the first episode in a series dedicated to my home state.
Speaks Connecticut. I'm on my CT shit, but when ain't I?
They show me love every time I'm in the club. Ain't no party like a party in a club.
It's Delaware, Connecticut, Connecticut, Connecticut.
The state of Connecticut. CT is the 3rd smallest state in the country and is considered part of New England as well as part of the tri-state area. The Nutmeg State is most commonly known for Yale University, UConn women's basketball, and a general misconception that the entire state is well off aside from Bridgeport.
Who the hell do you think you are? I'll have you know that Bridgeport is among the world leaders in abandoned buildings, shattered glass, boarded up windows, wild...
Now, locally, we know that as small as Connecticut is, each city has its own unique dynamic, as well as its own culture and history, which we will explore a bit more in depth as we cover each of these cases. I'm gonna drop these in between national cases. I know I definitely owe Wilmington and Western Mass some more work. I got y'all too. Alright, now let's get right to it. The events in today's case bring us to the city of Middletown, Connecticut. Middletown, located in Middlesex County, and staying true to its name, is located in the center of the state, 16 miles south of the state capital of Hartford. The city is home to about 47,000 people, making it the 20th most populated city in the state. Now, back in the year 1650, the area now known as Middletown was first named Mattabesic by English colonists after the Native American people that first inhabited the area. The settlement was renamed Middletown in late 1653, and by as soon as 1676, the colonists had owned all but 300 acres of the territory. Go figure. These early colonists were Puritans, so if you're familiar with the Salem witch trials of the 1690s, you can imagine the climate was somewhat similar. Now, by the 18th century, Middletown had become the area's largest settlement and was developing faster than any place else in the state. Its location on the Connecticut River made Middletown the busiest and most lucrative spot in Connecticut, as many goods and materials were shipped into Middletown's bustling port. Now, believe it or not, back in 1661, enslaved Africans were forced onto ships in Barbados, which traveled all the way up the East Coast into the Long Island Sound and brought upriver to Middletown. And at one point, the town had the highest concentration of slaves in the state. But by the 19th century, Middletown had actually become a notable stop on the Underground Railroad. Middletown had a strong manufacturing history, including pistols, ship parts, typewriters, and even aircraft engines. Middletown is also home to Wesleyan University, which has an impressive list of alumni who include Bill Belichick, D.B. Weiss, the creator of HBO's Game of Thrones, as well as urban media pioneer Angela Yee, formerly of The Breakfast Club, and many others. I have to say I really like Middletown. The city has a beautiful main street lined with local small businesses, outdoor dining, a vintage roller skating rink, and just a generally cool vibe. I've always had a great time at Mezzo's. I used to really enjoy Wild Bill's Nostalgia Store too. The city's home to the famous O'Rourke's Diner, and I've heard I need to try some Iliano's pizza. Middletown is also home to another one of my favorite personal spots, Wadsworth Falls. A perfect spot to relax with the powerful sound of the rushing water to help ease the mind. It's perfectly shaded too. Middletown has a lot to offer, and I've met some really great people from all over the city. I drive through Middletown often on the way to the beach or when I'm on the road working. My returning viewers know how I feel about cityscapes on the water. Although Middletown doesn't have towering skyscrapers, beautiful remnants of the port's glory days, a really cool swing truss railroad bridge, and a glistening water always makes for some real nice scenery, as well as one beautiful piece of architecture that I just haven't been able to appreciate like I used to. Construction of the Aragoni Bridge was started in 1936 and completed in 1938. It's a steel-through type arch bridge, 1,200 feet long, that connects Middletown to the town of Portland, Connecticut, while crossing over the Connecticut River. The bridge has two 600-foot arches and just an absolutely beautiful design done by Mr. William G. Grove. The bridge was named after state legislator Charles J. Aragoni, who was a key player in promoting the project. The bridge has 4 lanes, 2 each carrying traffic both ways and sidewalks for pedestrian traffic. On July 5th, 2015, the Aragoni Bridge will become the scene of one of the most tragic events in Connecticut history. On November 19th, 2014, Aaden Anthony Moreno made his grand arrival into the world. His mother, 18-year-old Adrianne Oyola, although still a teenager herself, was still on track to graduate from Middletown High School that upcoming June, while she was still managing welcoming motherhood at the same time. She had been living with her longtime boyfriend, Aaden's father, 21-year-old Tony Moreno, along with his mother, Denise Moreno, and Tony's younger brother. Now, according to Adrianne, she had met Tony when she was 13, but hadn't started dating him until about 3 years later. Circumstances would leave Adrianne without a place to go, and Denise would take her in where she basically lived in a domestic partnership with Tony for the next few years. Now, according to Adrianne, things were all good for the young couple until she became pregnant when she first noticed signs that the relationship wasn't necessarily what she wanted for herself. Now, upon Aiden's birth, things had gotten worse, and Tony was showing signs of some possessive and controlling behavior that started to surpass what some would consider cute toxicity. On the night of Adrianne's senior prom, Tony expressed that he wanted to get married, but Adrianne was, quote, on the fence about it and told him no. Now, in response to the rejection, Tony had taken and hidden Adrianne's prom dress in a desperate effort to keep her from going.
What about us? You're supposed to dance with just me. And maybe some of your girlfriends, but mostly just me.
Now, fortunately, Denise Moreno had bought Adrianne an outfit, so she was still able to attend. Tony's behavior had become more concerning in the next couple of weeks leading up to her graduation from Middletown.My. Now, according to Adrianne, Tony was being more emotionally and sometimes physically abusive towards her, and would sometimes even scream at Aaden when he felt like the baby was making too much noise. Now, when Tony would get angry with her, he would forcefully poke her in the chest and forehead and make threats on her life. Now, the day of her graduation, things escalated rapidly when Tony hid Adrianne's dress again, as well as the shoes she intended to wear with her cap and gown. Now, she was held up a little bit, but Adrianne did manage to get fly and walk the stage of graduation with her classmates. Now, at some point during the day, Tony took Aaden to a friend's house for a couple hours, but he hadn't informed Adrianne, and when she returned, she had no idea where they were. Now, this caused Adrianne much concern, as Tony had previously made threats that he would take Aaden away from her and that he could make the both of them disappear. Aaden also happened to be born with a neurological defect that required him to wear a helmet. Tony didn't want his child to wear a helmet, and Adrianne feared that Tony would remove the helmet when he wasn't in her or Denise's presence. Tony said when he arrived home with Aaden that evening, he received a text message of a screenshot from a Facebook post. The post was a picture of Tony and Aaden asking if anyone had seen them or knew their whereabouts. Now, it's not clear who originally made the post, but it's clear Adrianne had a genuine concern that Tony had made good on his threats. Tony claimed that he hadn't informed Adrianne he was taking Aaden out because his phone was broken. Now, this, along with an incident where Adrianne wanted to take Aaden to dinner with his grandfather, but Tony physically blocked her from grabbing him, were the last straws for Adrianne, and she filed for a temporary restraining order the next day. She explained to the court in an affidavit her fear for her and Aaden's safety. She gave a detailed statement expressing her fears, and the temporary restraining order was granted. She moved out the Moreno family home the next day and in with other relatives. Now, a little over a week later, on June 26, Tony's friend hit up Adrianne and told her that Denise was sick and had wanted to see her and the baby. Now, Adrianne obliged, expecting not to see Tony at the house because of the court order. But when she arrived, Tony allegedly popped out on her, took her phone, and demanded that she sit down, again threatening her, telling her that a lawyer said she could spend a year in jail if she didn't, quote, make him happy. Now, although this was in direct violation of the temporary restraining order, it wasn't immediately reported. 3 days later, on Monday, June 29, 2015, Adrianne went back to court to have the restraining order renewed. Judge Barry Pincus reviewed the affidavit submitted by Adrianne and declared that the issue seemed to be custody and not protection. Judge Pincus asked Adrianne, quote, "Are you afraid he's going to come over and beat you up?" To which Adrianne replied, "Sometimes. I feel like he's always there, and it's creepy." Now, Tony told the judge that Adrianne's behavior was, quote, not pleasant, and that he didn't want her to have custody of Aaden with a, quote, bad attitude. Judge Barry Pincus denied her request for a renewal and instead suggested that she and Tony come up with a joint custody agreement. The judge was quoted saying, "I'm just not convinced that there's a continuous threat of present physical pain or physical injury." He told Adrianne and Tony that they were acting like children and that they need to grow up and deal with each other as adults. Now, with Tony's mother's help, a joint custody agreement was drawn up and accepted by everyone. By many accounts, Tony was seen by neighbors and family as a loving and very protective father to Aaden, even though he was obviously not coping well with Adrianne's growth and desire to end their relationship. At this point, Aaden was a happy, healthy 7-month-old child. He was drinking out of a sippy cup like a big boy. He was starting to eat some fruits and veggies. He was sleeping through the night at his own on this point, and he was even starting to sit up a little bit on his own. That following Friday, July 3rd, 2015, would start the custody agreement with Tony having Aaden for the weekend. Tony took Aaden to the City of Middletown Independence Day Festival at Hartford Park to watch fireworks light up the sky over the Connecticut River. By all accounts, it was a great night. Adrianne attended the festival separately, but linked up with Aaden and Tony at some point during the festivities. Now, sadly, these would be the last memories she would make with baby Aaden. On Sunday, July 5th, Tony was home with Aaden at the Moreno family home. Aaden was scheduled to return to Adrianne's custody on the following Tuesday. Things seemed to be okay for the young father, as Denise would later testify that she had been joking with Tony in the kitchen that evening before going to bed for the night. Now, Adrianne had previously expressed to Tony that she wanted to change something in their custody arrangement, and Tony agreed to talk about it, but according to Adrianne, when she called Tony around 8 p.m. that night to discuss the details, he was extremely upset and she didn't know why. He demanded to know where she was and who she was with before the call was ended. At some point in the next few hours, an upset Tony packed baby Aaden in his stroller and walked to the Charles J. Aragoni Bridge. At 11:18 p.m., Tony sent the first message in a conversation by text that would last for just under a half hour.
"I really need to talk to you."
"I was trying to talk to my friend. She just broke up with her boyfriend and wanted to talk to me. Sorry, I'm trying to be a good friend."
"There was a problem regarding our son."
"What's going on? Why didn't you say that instead of saying I need to talk to you?"
"Clearly nothing that matters to you. And why would I say I need to talk to you if it wasn't important?"
"What was the matter?"
"Don't worry, you'll see later. Just remember I tried to contact you first."
"Just tell me, are you in the hospital?"
"No, And again, it doesn't matter. Just remember, you wanted to play games and lie and be childish when I tried to reach out.
Okay, Tony. Good night. I'll talk to you tomorrow or Tuesday.
No, you won't.
What do you mean, no?
You won't talk to me tomorrow or any other day.
Tuesday is my day. So yes, I'll text you in the morning to see, and you'll be dropping off Aaden.
I won't be.
Tuesday is my day.
There is no more days, Adrianne.
WTF do you mean?
Enjoy your new life without us.
You can't just decide not to bring him back, Tony. It says in the agreement that Tuesday is my day. You can't just not bring him. Tony, seriously, don't play around like that. Please don't try and take him from me.
You tried to take him away from me. You failed. I didn't.
At this point in the conversation, Adrianne ran to her sister's house and asked her to call 911. The text continued.
Enjoy your life without us now.
Where are you? Tony, I'm trying to make this co-parent thing work.
You're not a parent anymore.
I'm trying to get along with you for Aaden, and you're gonna do this. You can't just up and leave with Aaden. Where are you? Where's Aaden?
He's dead, and soon I will be too.
Don't say that. You're playing right now. Please tell me you're kidding. You're fucking kidding me. Don't fucking talk like that. You couldn't kill your own son. Tony, please don't hurt Aaden. Please.
These last few texts were met with no response from Tony. Minutes later, just before midnight, while Denise was in bed sleeping, she was awakened by a call from her son Tony. When she first answered, she couldn't hear anything, but she soon heard Aaden make a cooing sound before starting to cry. Tony then asked his mother to come to the Aragoni Bridge and pick up Aaden's stroller, along with his phone, which contained pictures of Aaden that he wanted her to have. Already fearing for her son and Aaden, Denise urged her son to walk off the bridge, pleading with him to please just put one foot in front of the other. And the sorrowful Tony replied that he just couldn't, before the call abruptly ended. Denise grabbed her keys and jumped in the car with Tony's little brother, speeding off towards the bridge. She tried to call Tony back, but the calls went straight to voicemail. She then called 911 and reported that her son was suicidal and he was on the Aragoni Bridge with his 7-month-old son. Middletown police officer Austin Smith took the call from dispatch and raced towards the bridge. Officer Smith and Denise arrived at the same time to find Tony standing on the bridge's sidewalk next to Aaden's stroller on the south side of the bridge about 100 feet west of the bridge's center point. They hopped out their cars and jumped over the barrier separating the roadway and the sidewalk. Denise called out to her son, but he didn't respond and started walking away. Officer Smith yelled, "Tony, stop," but he just looked back at Officer Smith and kept walking in the other direction. Now, Officer Andrew Wasilewski arrived on scene as Officer Smith yelled for Tony to stop again. Seconds later, before Officer Wasilewski could get both legs over the barrier, Tony grabbed the steel railing of the bridge with both hands and hurled himself over. Denise and the officers ran to the railing and looked over, watching Tony plummet over 100 feet before crashing into the waters of the Connecticut River. Denise would look down at the stroller and pure terror would set in as Aaden wasn't there. Denise and Officer Smith frantically searched the stroller, but there was only blankets and clothes, and no Aaden. Officer Smith and Tony's brother ran down the bridge towards the Middletown side, screaming the infant's name and frantically searching for Aaden along the way. Officer Wasilewski got on the radio and reported Tony had jumped, his chilling words being heard on the airwaves. "We don't know where the kid is. We have an empty baby carriage." Other officers, hearing Tony had jumped, raced to the shore underneath the bridge where they were able to see Tony had survived the jump and was treading water. Officers shouted at him asking him where Aaden was, but got no response. A responding fireboat rescued Tony and brought him to a docking area where he was aggressively asked again where Aaden was, to which he didn't respond. He was transported to Middlesex Hospital before being flown by Lifestar to Hartford Hospital for his injuries. Police and fire rescue was searching till the morning, but unfortunately, they weren't able to locate baby Aaden.
Helping news at this hour, search underway in Middletown for a 7-month-old boy. Police fear he may have been part of his father's suicide attempt. It is a developing story we have been on since early this morning. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Keith Koontz. Police were called to the Aragoni Bridge shortly before midnight after getting a report that a man was planning to jump. When they got there, they saw 22-year-old Tony Moreno jump into the Connecticut River. He was saved, but there's no sign of the baby that was with him before he plunged into the water.
It's been some 12 hours since 7-month-old Aaden Moreno went missing. This search very active. You can probably hear the helicopter that's going overhead right now along the Connecticut River. A silver alert has also been issued, but I want you to take a look behind me at the Connecticut River, the Aragoni Bridge in the background. This is really the center of this search for this young boy. And while police don't know exactly where he is right now, they do fear that he may have gone into the river just like his father.
While rescue efforts were still underway all morning on Monday, July 6th, police were at the hospital with Tony waiting for an opportunity to find out first if he would survive, and secondly what happened to Aaden. Tony had been severely injured from his jump. He had multiple cuts and bruises on his face, a broken nose, a collapsed lung, and had been unconscious for a short period of time. He had a breathing tube inserted and he was unable to speak. The breathing tube was finally removed around 1 p.m. He was read his Miranda rights and detectives started questioning him. Tony had confirmed the horrible reality that police had already assumed, but everyone just kind of hoped wouldn't be. In a videotaped confession while still in a hospital bed and using a basketball analogy, Tony confessed to tossing baby Aaden in a similar fashion to shooting a free throw off the bridge and into the river below. Now, at this point, it was going on 24 hours without finding baby Aaden, and the efforts to locate him would tragically shift from rescue to recovery. Tony Moreno remained in the ICU at Hartford Hospital in stable condition while search efforts continued on the river. Multiple local law enforcement agencies would assist in the search, as well as the Department of Environmental Protection, Homeland Security, and a Middletown-based marine tech company named Hi-Pack Inc. that provided a sonar system and an employee to operate it, but unfortunately their efforts would be futile. The following evening, Tuesday, July 7th, 2015, at around 8 p.m., a kayaker out paddling in the Connecticut River about 20 miles away in the town of East Haddam, Connecticut, confirmed everyone's nightmare as they tragically found baby Aaden's body in the river near the East Haddam Swing Bridge. Crews responded to the location and recovered baby Aaden from the water.
The tragedy in Middletown, we're learning that the father of the baby boy whose body was pulled from the Connecticut River is being charged with murder. Police say Tony Moreno told them that he actually threw his 7-month-old into the water below the Aragoni Bridge.
Tonight, the community gathering, trying to come to terms with this simply horrifying story. Vigil being held right on the town green. News 8's Noelle Gardner is there now live, and she has the details. Noelle?
Keith and Ann, the pouring rain isn't stopping people from stopping by the Middletown Green tonight. Dozens of locals are here, from police officers to students to moms and dads, to remember Aaden Moreno.
On July 8th, 2015, Tony Moreno was arrested and was actually arraigned while still at the hospital. He was charged with murder and murder with special circumstances, to which he pled not guilty and was given a $2 million bond. He was also charged with 2 counts of criminal violation of a protective order in relation to the June 26th incident where he threatened Adrianne at the Moreno family home. He pled not guilty to these charges as well and was hit with a separate cash bond of $100,000. After his arraignment, he was discharged from the hospital to the Department of Corrections to await trial. Many vigils honoring Aaden were held through the following week. On July 8th, a Facebook group named Porch Lighting for Baby Aaden asked their supporters to leave their front porch light on in Aiden's honor on the night of Friday, July 10th, 2015, in which thousands of people participated in nationwide. On July 12, 2015, a vigil was held for baby Aaden on the shore of the river near the bridge. 238 flowers were thrown into the river to symbolize the 238 days of Aaden's short life. Hashtag Baby Aaden was trending, with thousands of people sending support and prayers, struggling to cope with such tragedy as news of what happened to Aaden really left the community, as well as the entire nation, completely heartbroken. By November of 2015, Norm Pattis, a high-profile and highly controversial attorney, had taken Tony's case and would be representing him at trial. You may be familiar with Norm Pattis as the attorney who represented Alex Jones in the Sandy Hook lawsuit, or maybe when he was representing Fotis Dulos in his case. In May of 2016, attorney Pattis announced that the prosecutors had offered Tony a plea deal, which he rejected because he felt it came with too long of a prison term. Although the details of the plea and how much prison time it asked for were never made public, attorney Pattis boldly told Fox 61, "The state wants to settle this case on terms we think are ridiculous. We're confident that a jury will not find Mr. Moreno guilty of murder and will take our chances at trial." Tony's trial started on Friday, February 10th, 2017, over a year and a half from the day of his crimes. Jurors heard riveting testimony from the responding officers and heard Denise Moreno's 911 call, as well as audio recordings of radio communication between the responding officers. A visibly emotional Denise Moreno took the stand and fought back tears as she gave her testimony about the night she lost her grandson. Now on Wednesday, Adrianne took the stand, outlining the history of her relationship with Tony, the beautiful memories she made with Aaden during his short time here, and the escalating behavior that culminated into the horror she experienced on July 5th, 2015. A poised Adrianne told the court, quote, "I remember the way he would laugh, put his whole fist in his mouth, but what I miss the most is the kisses and love. I missed his first steps. I missed him saying his first word." Addressing Tony directly, she said, "On July 5th, you took my whole world from me." The jury was shown the exchange of messages leading up to Aaden's murder and failed attempt to take his own life, as well as a few messages that Tony wrote but had chose not to send and had deleted. Detectives were able to recover these messages and enter them in as evidence. The first one simply said, "To everyone, I'm sorry." The second deleted text was addressed to Aaden and read, "I hope one day you get to read this. I'm very sorry I didn't get to watch you grow up and get to know the young man you've become. And I'm sorry if you ever wished I was there to help you. I'm sure you have absolutely no memories of me, and clearly that's not your fault. Just know me leaving your life was never something I planned on doing. I loved you so much. You drove me crazy sometimes, but you were one of the best things that ever happened to me. Watching you grow up for the first half year of your life was an amazing experience, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything in the world." The third deleted text was intended for Adrianne. It read, "I wish I could be what you wanted, the man of your dreams. But I'm your worst mistake, at least that's how it seems. I think of you all day, trying to find the perfect thing to say.
That shit whack.
But I guess I always mess it up. That's how I feel anyway. I feel like the sight, sound, and feel of me repulses you, and it hurts so bad. But I can't tell you that. My feelings are just an inconvenience that you don't want to waste your time on. I'm that song you skip every time. I went from the picture you could stare at for hours to the window you would look right through. I'm a waste."
You pictures didn't start dying laughing.
You heard it? Nah, man. Yo! Get this nigga out of here! Get the fuck out of here! I'm tired of that shit!
Now this note went on for paragraphs, but another quote worth mentioning is where Tony wrote, "It kills me to think of your heart shifting into another's hands." Now on Thursday, Tony took the stand in his own defense. He testified that in the months leading up to July 5th, he was severely depressed and suicidal due to his failing relationship with Adrianne. He told the court that the restraining order had made his suicidal thoughts worse, and on the night of July 5th, he walked to the bridge with the intent to take his own life. When his attorney asked him about the disturbing text messages, he testified that he was only trying to hurt Adrianne before taking himself out, and that he never intended to harm Aaden. He said, "I was still trying to decide whether or not me dying would have been the right thing. I thought he'd be better off without me." A banister had been set up in the courtroom to represent the bridge's railing, and Tony eerily demonstrated with a baby doll provided by the state how he claimed to have held Aaden while pointing out places in view that he had fond memories with Adrianne.
Middletown, sorry.
Did you say something as you were doing that?
Yes.
What did you say to Aaden?
Pointed out a movie theater.
What hand did you point out the movie theater with?
All right hand.
With your right hand?
Yes.
What did you say to Aaden?
Told him that was a movie theater where me and his mom had our first kiss.
That was the single most important thing in my life.
And was your hand still pointing at the theater? Tony, was your hand still pointing at the theater?
Yes.
What happened? Did something happen with Aaden as you were pointing at the theater, talking about Justin Bieber in the movie?
Yes.
What happened, Tony?
When asked what happened, to the courtroom's horror, Tony testified, "I dropped him." Tony was claiming that he accidentally dropped Aaden over the railing. He testified that although he texted Adrianne that Aaden was dead, Aaden was still alive at that point, and that he never intended to kill his son. When he was cross-examined, prosecutors asked if this was the case, why hadn't he alerted responding officers or his mother before hurling himself off the bridge? And his response was, "I don't know, I was panicking." The prosecution would rest after jurors heard testimony from the state chief medical examiner, Dr. James Gill. Gill told the court that Aaden's death was ruled a homicide by drowning. He testified that the autopsy found Aaden had a 4-inch skull fracture consistent with a fall from a great height, and further evidence would lead him to conclude that Aaden was alive when he entered the water. An autopsy photo in an envelope was shown to the jury but withheld from the public. During cross-examination, attorney Norm Pattis asked Dr. Gill if he found any indication that Aaden could have suffered from myoclonus, a condition that causes muscle spasms. Dr. Gill stated he did not find any signs of such condition, but also stated it may not be something you could catch during an autopsy. Now, any wonder to why Norm Pattis asked this question was erased on Monday, February 22nd during closing arguments. The courtroom silently watched, and some gasped as Norm stood at the banister with the baby doll, demonstrating how Tony was holding Aaden on the bridge, suggesting that Aaden could have had a muscle spasm due to this condition he was never diagnosed with that caused his father to drop him. Norm Pattis stated, as he stood at the railing with his child deciding what to do, the child slipped from his grasp. He intended to kill himself. He never intended to kill his son. The love this father had for this child rendered it impossible to kill him. We want the jury to know Mr. Moreno accepts criminal responsibility for his son's death, but in his view, it was not murder. Well, the jury didn't share this view, and after a little more than 3 hours of deliberation, on February 22nd, 2017, Tony Moreno was convicted of murder and risk of injury to a child. At his sentencing hearing on May 31st, 2017, Judge Vitale addressed Tony saying, "You taunted his mother as you committed the act with text messages that can only be described as demonic. At any point during that 2 miles, referring to his walk to the bridge, you could have stopped and gone back. You wouldn't be deterred from committing this heinous act. Adrianne also spoke at Tony's sentencing hearing, saying, "Every time I wake up, I pray the nightmare will be over and my son will be in my arms. Just know I tried to forgive you, but that's impossible." Judge Vitale gave Tony the maximum sentence of 60 years for the murder and 10 additional years for the risk of injury to a child, for a total of 70 years in prison. A murder conviction in Connecticut eliminates the possibility for parole. Tony Moreno is currently housed at Chester Correctional Institution and is scheduled to be released in 2085.
I would like to thank Judge Vitale for the maximum sentence in this case, and now Aaden can rest in peace knowing that justice was served. I feel bad for Denise Moreno. She did the best she could with her son. It is not her fault. My prayers are with her. I would like to thank the Middletown Police Department, state's attorney, the police, the first responders, and everyone who searched and rescued for my son, and the victim's advocate especially. Please continue to respect my privacy while I continue to mourn my son, and to please keep Aaden in your prayers and thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, first and foremost, my sincere condolences to everyone directly affected by Aaden's passing. I know there will never be enough words that can truly do justice to the level of tragedy that you guys have had to experience. You know, when I started reading more about this case and I learned the details, it honestly left me more unsettled than I ever was. I know it's easy to look back after a tragedy and point out warning signs and critique what people did wrong, so I try to stay objective as I can. Now, I understand judges have a harder job than I can even imagine, but Adrianne did what she was supposed to do in efforts to protect her and her son. Judge Pincus wasn't convinced that Tony was a physical threat to Adrianne or Aaden, and now he has to live with the weight of that decision for the rest of his life. I personally don't feel that a protective order would have deterred Tony, honestly, but all judges can consider this tragedy and others like it when determining the credibility of threats in future domestic situations. And I also hope this tragedy won't deter victims of abusive relationships to seek help. I mean, please seek help. If not from the police or the courts directly, you know, I'll pin some local and national resources in the comments section if it helps. I'd like to extend my sincere condolences and best wishes going forward to Adrianne Oyola. You will remain in my thoughts, and I'm always rooting for you. You know, I have to note that Adrianne is by far one of the strongest people I've read about in a long time. I know that sounds cliche, but it's very well deserved. When she decided she deserved better for herself, Tony tried desperately to prevent her growth. She resisted all of his attempts to break her spirit, and when he realized he wasn't going to break her, he took it to an unthinkable level. Her candor during and after the trial was notable, and every day she perseveres is a W for her in my book. Tony's mother, Denise Moreno, addressed the court during sentencing, expressing that Aaden's passing and the events surrounding it were devastating to her family as well, and the scrutiny she had faced from people since. You know, I sincerely feel bad for her as well, and Tony's brother. She lost her grandson and her son too, in a sense, in one horrible tragedy that she had to partially witness. You know, I also learned that when Tony was 6 years old, his father was killed in an industrial accident, which is already a devastating loss. So their family deserves a break from tragedy too, and my thoughts are with them as well. You know, personally, I do believe that Tony was depressed, and I do believe he intended to take his own life that night. But I also believe he intended to end Aaden's life in a cowardly attempt to completely devastate Adrianne. You know, this might be the most disgusting case of simpery Connecticut has ever seen. When Tony said, "It kills me to think of your heart shifting into another's hands," it said a lot. You know, I kind of get it. I know it hurts to think about someone you once called yours doing all those things you used to do with somebody else. Tony couldn't bear it.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
But what ultimately pushed me towards detesting Tony is the fact that he didn't plead guilty initially or take the plea deal. The fact that he had the nerve, after already committing such a despicable act, to make Adrian, his mother Denise, his own brother, and everyone else who loved Aiden sit through those demonstrations at trial and relive the most horrible night of their lives. He really ain't shit for that. Now, attorney Norm Pattis made some more headlines this past April after a tragic comedic performance in East Haven.
So I guess the bottom line, people, is you just can't say certain words. They're off limits. And one of those words is nigger. Come and get it, come and get it.
Although whether or not he's racist is questionable, I gotta say, to have the stones to stand in front of that grieving family and suggest Aiden might have had a muscle spasm causing his fall shows me that you will die on that hill for your client. Yo, all my local crimies, this probably who you want representing you if your life's on the line. You know, utmost respect to all the first responders, the doctors, the searchers, the detectives, and prosecutors who were involved in the case. You know, anyone who's been with me on Route 9 over the years since this happened, I've asked about it. Honestly, the response I've gotten has always been one of two ways. Either they immediately remember and they share my sentiment of shock and sadness, or they haven't heard of it at all. Now, the latter is the one that never sat well with me. Sometimes I would almost get offended, like, how the fuck you not know about Aiden? I can't help but think about Aiden every time I pass the bridge. You know, as a father, I could never wrap my head around the thought of actually committing such a horrible act. You know, I'm sure I'll still think of baby Aiden with those big, beautiful eyes and infectious smile every time I pass the bridge. And I suppose, in a way, making this video helped me deal with the tragedy. And with all due respect to the legacy of Mr. Aragoni, for me, that's Aiden's bridge now. And that's it. That's what I decided to call it. The Baby Aaden Memorial Bridge. And that's how I'm going to refer to it from now on. Who knows, maybe one day it'll be official. But for now, long live Baby Aiden. You will not be forgotten, Lil King. Much love to the whole Middletown. I appreciate y'all. Please stay well and stay safe. One man gang.